Hello and welcome to another rousing edition of Trending Topics with BB. I am your humble host, Brooke Brown, hence the BB. Well, we are back for another rousing edition of this podcast, another episode. But before I get to what I'm going to talk about on this episode, I'd like to start every episode with the housekeeping, and that is to bookmark trendingtopicswithbbpodcast.com if you have not already done so. If you found this podcast by Googling Trending Topics with BB, I appreciate you. Anywhere podcasts are found, please subscribe, as I assume you already have. But if you haven't, I would appreciate if you are a Apple Podcast subscriber, Stitcher subscriber, or anywhere podcasts receive ratings and comments. I would love and appreciate a favorable rating and comment. It helps this podcast be found by other listeners. All of the algorithms of said platforms need such ratings to keep the podcast really, not really on the top of the charts because there's so many damn podcasts out there, but really just to ensure the podcast gets found by other listeners searching for quality podcasts. So, thank you if you have already done so. I have read your comments. I appreciate it. And if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, or if you would like to be a future guest on Trending Topics with BB, please email ttwithbb@gmail.com. Yes, right. The official email address is ttwithbbpod@gmail.com. I said it wrong earlier. ttwithbbpod@gmail.com. Well, it has been a few weeks since I did the Happy New Year episode. I have done some traveling, which is really what this lovely episode is going to cover. I have a lot to talk about and to reflect on, so let's get right into it. So, for those that don't know, and I'm assuming you are new to this podcast, and if you are a veteran listener, you will have known this by now, but I'm really into music, and more specifically electronic dance music in the form of trance music, techno, progressive, house. Many and lovely interviews on this podcast have featured artists in said genres of music. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I became aware of, if I didn't already know prior to that, of a lovely event that is called the Groove Cruise. Now, the Groove Cruise is a chartered cruise featuring the biggest and, well, I'm not saying the biggest in terms of fame, but I'm talking more popular, and also maybe artists that you wouldn't know, on a cruise for 4 days to different destinations. There's been 17 sailings to thus far, as the one I just experienced was the 17th sailing, but that's including both East and West Coast sailings all together through a company called Wet Travel. They also do other charter cruises such as the Salsa Cruise and a few others. But the Groove Cruise is pretty much the premier dance music cruise that has basically been selling out for years. It started small and has now created such a community and following that more and more of us that have not had the experience are able to join said experience. Now, like I said, it started 5 years ago where I got the wind of it. I became an affiliate to help promote the cruise to fellow people who love the music. And in that time, in the last 5 years, sadly, I've booked twice and had to cancel because of work and life circumstances. And then the years that I did not book, the sailings were sold out as marketed, so I didn't have a chance to fully book those. So it's been a long time coming for me to finally finally experience what the Groove Cruise has to offer. I've heard many stories from many people that I've met in the community over the years that have just said that the Groove Cruise experience is something that is different than any other music festival within the genre, and I will have to agree now, having experience. So I will go into a little bit of detail. So, like I said, it started 5 years ago, and basically, I knew I wanted to get on this cruise. Now, a chartered cruise is more expensive than a normal cruise, because they are accounting for the artists that are featured on the cruise. So that's another reason why it's probably been a harder time for me to finally book a cabin or stateroom, as they're called, on this cruise, because the last chartered cruise I went on was the New Kids on the Block cruise in 2014, which again was about the same price. That's a whole nother episode of this podcast. I could talk about that. But anyway, so to get back to the Groove Cruise, I basically booked this past year, took the year to make my payments, had it paid off by October. Along the route, my roommate, who was supposed to room and go on the cruise with me, due to his life circumstances, had to cancel. But the good news about the Groove Cruise is that they have had this happen over the years, and with the popularity, there's always going to be a wait list for people who are wanting to get on it after it is deemed sold out. So I was able to join the cruise roommate match program, which was great, because I knew I still wanted to go regardless of my friend from Arizona that I know not being able to attend. And so it was great. I was matched with another single cruiser who was attending, but had her own group of friends that was also going on the cruise. So it's a good experience in terms of that. So that was great. To explain further, I think what enhances the Groove Cruise is the ability for... Well, let me explain. The Groove Cruise not only has many different experiences of the DJs, the lineup throughout the cruise, not only performing at multiple stages on the ship, but whatever destination the Groove Cruise sails to, there's usually a beach party or something related where... In this case, the beach party was in Costa Maya, Mexico. Well, that's our destination, our port of call. And that beach party, the headliner was Above and Beyond, which is a well-known trance dance music act that has been quite requested over the years to be featured in the Groove Cruise lineup. But before I get to the beach party, let's just start from the beginning. So we embark. I told you I have my roommate situation. We embark on that Thursday. The anticipation leading up to it, I will not go into detail, but as I mentioned in the last episode, the New Year's episode, I received a job promotion that has had me relocate from Phoenix, Arizona to Los Angeles, California. So I was dealing with a lot of life stress concerning this move prior to the cruise, even though the cruise is all paid for and ready to go. Flights were all bought to get to Miami, because it's Miami to Costa Maya. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. And basically, so I was a little stressed leading up to the cruise. So we embark on that Thursday. Well, first of all, I fly in on that Wednesday, the night before. There's a pre-party in the day at Clevelander, which is a famous hotel and destination in Miami. I was unable to attend that pre-party because of flying in from the West Coast. However, that night there was another pre-party featuring, you guessed it, my favorite DJ, Marcus Schultz, who is also featured on the Groove Cruise, which I will get into more of that in a minute, at a club called 1111 in Miami that is, now that I've been there, part strip club, part club. It was an interesting evening. And if I arrived early to this pre-party. I will mention that because of my stress leading up to this, I saw my immune system dwindle to nothing, and I was suffering from a sinus infection leading up to getting on the cruise. So after my flight, I did not really feel very well from my flights, I would say, because I did have a layover in Houston. Feel very well getting to Miami, but because of Benadryl and cough drops and just hoping for the best, I attended I was on medicine, so I don't really think I was contagious. But again, my ears were plugged. I was not feeling well, so it was hard to attend the pre-party. But anyway, nonetheless, I attended it. However, by the time Marcus Schultz went on at the pre-party, which was about 2 a.m., I was exhausted from traveling and knew I had to get some hours of sleep before checking in at the Port of Miami the next morning, or hours later because we were already into the morning. So I left the pre-party early. But I will preface with that I spent 11 hours with Marcus Schultz to ring in 2020 in LA at Avalon Hollywood. So I didn't feel like I was really missing much because I also knew that he was going to do a open to close on the cruise, along with maybe a couple other sets that were just as exciting. So apologies for missing most of the pre-party, but I had to get some rest to feel better to even get on the cruise. And the rest did do the trick. I did feel better the next morning, way better. I was able to embark. I will preface that I didn't have any flu-like symptoms. It was just a sinus infection and ear infection. Not really an infection, just pressure from the flights that I took. But thanks to Benadryl and any other cold medicine that I took, I was fine. So anyway, we embark on that Thursday. The process was seemingly less stressful than I anticipated because I was unable to print out my documents beforehand because I don't have a printer, and with all my running around, didn't print out my documents. But luckily, Celebrity Cruise Line and their port of check-in where the ship is went smoothly. I did get there early, so that was a plus. Excuse me. Still kind of flumming. Anyway, so getting on the cruise, there's DJ and music already starting. People are hyped. I could tell that I was in a sea of veteran groove cruisers, and being a virgin groove cruiser, I was in for the time of my life. I already knew this, and I had already vowed, because I did not buy the unlimited drink package because I'm trying to stay sober these days, personal preference, just because I knew I was going straight from the groove cruise to a work trip in New York City, that I did not want to feel hungover or any slight, just because I just want to be on the top of my game these days. Along with that, I vowed the minute we pulled out of port in Miami, I did not want to be on my phone at all. I wanted to spend 4 days disconnected. So I did shut off my cell phone, which was glorious. I wish I would have taken more pictures on the cruise, but I felt that, like, I was more in the moment, and I'm trying to live more in the moment each day as I continue life anyway. So that was one of the best decisions I made, was to shut off my phone on the cruise. Yeah, I should have just used it as a camera, but I didn't want to chance it. And I just liked knowing that I was safe and sound in my cabin or stateroom. And I just really didn't have to touch it all weekend. So there was that. So, okay. So I will run down the list of artists that were featured on the Groove Cruise, along with Marcus Schultz, Above and Beyond. Shout out to Christine the Sky, who's been a guest on this podcast. Go check that episode out. Of course, Marcus Schultz himself, one of my first interviews on this podcast, over 3 years old. I think that's episode number 37, so check that out. But along with the sets of the mini artists that are featured on Groove Cruise, the best thing about the Groove Cruise is the artist activities and any other opportunities. So I will shout out, before I forget, the Wet Foundation, which is the nonprofit founded by Wet Travel. Really their mission is to help the communities where the Groove Cruise or any of their cruises stop, the ports of call, and help the communities such as the children. In this case, if it's Costa Maya, we were able, if we signed up to volunteer or donate backpacks to a school that, after being devastated years ago by a storm, is being rebuilt. However, they're not really getting any government funding. So we, as the volunteers of the Wet Foundation, stopped by the school to donate the backpacks and supplies that were donated. but also to clean up the school area so that when they do get help, to help rebuild a playground and the remaining part of the school, they will get help and assistance from the government. So we did that, and it was probably one of the most rewarding aspects of going on the group cruise this year was volunteering with the other volunteers of the WET Foundation. So shout out to all the Groove Cruisers that I met who were also volunteering. But in the event that you are going on the Groove Cruise in the future, I highly recommend taking some time out of your partying to give back through the WET Foundation. So I just wanted to make that clear that was one of the best and highlights of the Groove Cruise, was doing that before going to the beach party that featured Above and Beyond later in the day. So I want to give that shout out. Okay, so along those lines, there were certain activities such as playing basketball with artists, in this case, Team Marcus Schultz versus Coco Drills, and some other activities. Us as fans could donate and enter in these raffles. The donations were for the WET Foundation to be selected to do these activities with the artists that we admire. And to my surprise and lovely, I did not win the Above and Beyond contest because that was a meet and greet and all of that for the beach party, which is fine. I entered that one. The donation was really for the good cause of the WET Fund. I also entered to be on Team Marcus Schultz for the basketball game versus Coco Drills, who's another artist, his team. And to my surprise, I was selected to join Team Marcus Schultz for basketball. Of course, I used to play basketball in my youth. I was actually pretty good at it, but I probably haven't played in over 10, maybe 15 years, since college. So that was interesting, getting up on the rooftop of the ship to play basketball on Team Marcus Schultz. But it was amazing because over the years I've kind of gotten to know the team, and as I have mentioned, he's been a guest on this podcast. So it was one of those surreal moments for me to just hang out, play some hoops, and just enjoy the day. However, I would say that was day 2, prior to his open to close on the ship, after a night of dancing the previous night. So I will say I was going pretty hard those 2 days in the paint, and this is the day before Costa Maya, that my legs are pretty shot, and I have an old, horrible, injury-ridden left knee that didn't take kindly to all the dancing and basketball, but it was still worth it. So I want to shout out the WET Travel staff and Groove Cruise staff for the opportunity to play basketball with Marcus Schultz and his team. Also Cold Harbor, who is his label, and his teammates, Tim Grew, Mike Osefian, and everybody else who was on Team Marcus Schultz. I appreciate the hospitality. It was fun. I'm sure we all were kind of regretting what we were doing based on the fact that we had a full night of partying to do and the rest of the Groove Cruise. But it was a unique experience nonetheless. And again, I want a huge shout out to anybody that made this happen. It was one of the most surreal moments of my life to this day because I'm a huge fan. And again, one of the best things. But along those lines, another fun artist activities is there was 3 specific artist dinners set up by the team of Groove Cruise. One was with Jason, the founder of WET Travel, and his parents that attended. Another one was a dinner with, oh God, I'm blanking at the moment. But the one I was most interested in, again, was with Marcus Schultz and Adina Bitar. And I was able to RSVP and join the dinner, which was at the Tuscan Cafe, which was the Italian restaurant, specialty restaurant on board the ship. Another, again, surreal dinner, because not only did they attend, some other lovely people attended, such as Emma Hewitt herself, some other fellow fans on the Groove Cruise. Shout out to Mike, and I'm forgetting the couple's name. I'm sorry about blanking on my names right now, but I'm just trying to go down my memories. Tam Groove and Liz Sin. I know that's not your actual name, but I appreciate your hospitality. Christian Parth, who I sat with and got to know. Everybody at that dinner was lovely. I may have not been as talkative as I am now on this podcast, but it was because everything that was happening on the Groove was just so surreal and amazing that I was just taking it all in as I was just experiencing a lovely dinner. It was worth the extra fee and lovely food on the cruise. So again, shout out to the ideas and team that made these artist dinners happen, because it's just something that us as fans and maybe artists don't take place of or have the opportunity to. So again, that was amazing. And there was a lot of other activities such as this. I mean, there was, speaking of Huma Huma, she ran a meditation/yoga class. Karayan, who opened up for Above and Beyond on the beach party and also had a couple sets on the cruise, did a dumpling making class. Roger Sanchez held a tequila tasting afternoon. There was many artists that did other activities with a lot of fans. So not only was it centered around the sets of these artists each and every day and night, because this cruise features 96 hours of non-stop dance music, but these activities and opportunities to interact with the artists are unlike anything possibly offered out there in the industry. So that's what also makes Groove Cruise unique, is the ability to hang out and meet artists. And speaking of this, I would like to shout out Liquid Todd. Look up Liquid Todd. I met him in the elevator, and he was a lovely chap, and introduced himself. He was coming back from getting some food, and that's the thing, is like you could chance encounters with artists throughout the ship. Was great. I think, who else did I just rot? Oh, Solarstone and his wife. Because I'm a huge trance fan and love the Pure Trance brand. Having a little short conversation in the elevator was amazing. Sad I didn't say more, but you know, we're all doing a bunch of shit on the cruise. So it was one of those situations where it was just cool. So as I've mentioned over and over again, the artist opportunities and activities on the cruise are unlike anything else you can experience. Again, so surreal. But the number one thing, other than the experiences having to do with activities and opportunities on the cruise, that makes the Groove Cruise so amazing is meeting people from all over the world on the ship. And the Groove Cruise, the GC fam, the Groove Cruise fam, is some of the most genuine, lovely people within the scene. And I had been told this before by people that have attended the Groove Cruise, but now having experienced it, I just want to shout out the Groove Cruise fam, because your vibes anywhere on the ship were amazing. People introduced each other. They make sure people are taken care of if people had a little too much to drink or just not feeling well, because there were a couple nights where it was quite rocky on the ship. So seasickness was an issue for some. People were taking care of each other. If people lost belongings such as cell phones or anything that was important, it was turned into guest services so people could find it later at the Lost and Found. It was just lovely meeting people. It was just like-minded people that are there to have a good time, make everybody else's experience just as great. And you don't see that throughout the world, but you don't see that throughout the dance music scene. I've been to EDC, I've been to Dream State, I've been to some other festivals and shows. I go to shows all the time. And that kind of honesty and really what Plur means, peace, love, unity, and respect, is fully representative on the Groove Cruise. I really want to shout out everybody on the Groove Cruise. No matter what your favorite genre of dance music is, the vibes you bring on the Groove Cruise is unlike anything. I mean, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Not only just the surreal experiences that I'm reliving and telling, like the dinners, the activities, the sets themselves, just basically, even when I wasn't in that, and you go to the buffet or any places to have a late night snack and meeting other fans that you met at a set or just throughout the ship and having those conversations and like, where are you from? Oh my god, you're from Arizona as well, or oh, you're in California, great. Or you're from the Netherlands, or wherever it may have been, all over the country, all over the world. You are just a lovely bunch of people. The diversity and the vibes on the Groove Cruise are some of the most spectacular I've ever experienced. It's probably, I will have to chalk up the Groove Cruise 2020 is one of my most favorite experiences I have ever experienced because of the options. Not only one of the options on the cruise, but just meeting wonderful people from all over the world. So I will say that I do want to attend Groove Cruise Miami next year. It's already 50% sold out because it went on sale actually before 2020 sailed. And now people are already rebooking. But I'm also waiting to hear what the West Coast option will be, because that would be an easier traveling situation for me. Hopefully they're going to do another cruise, because this past year they did a island experience at Catalina Island, which I heard was fun, but not the Groove Cruise full experience. So I will let you probably know if I'm going. I also want to take people such as my significant other. Maybe I can convince him to come with me this next time. Because of the trip being a little pricey and time consuming, there is a reason why I understand why people either cancel or have to cancel or are reluctant to do it. But here's the thing. In many festivals, if you go to a festival like an EDC at GM State, Beyond Wonderland, anything Insomniac related, which is a company that runs these festivals, or if you go to Coachella or Burning Man or anything related to Tomorrowland, there is a interesting thing about wanting to have the opportunity to rest, to get food. Some of these festivals incorporating camping, but that's not always everybody's cup of tea. But the thing about the Groove Cruise is you're on a ship. You have your stateroom. If you want to relax and go take a nap, you can. If you want to get food, you can. Another awesome thing that they set up on the cruise is what they call the Oasis. Something Oasis. And it's literally like this place by the spa where you can go take naps and get massages and listen to relaxing music that is a little bit different than the rest of the music that is on the cruise. There's always the option of going to the spa, but again, that encourages extra charges and money. But what I'm saying is you have the ability to rest when you want to be involved as much as you want to, like I said, run into artists that you've admired or want to throughout the cruise, to meet fans from all over the world. I mean, I'm going to be a broken record reiterating what I just said in the last 30 minutes, but I really wanted to recap Groove Cruise 2020 to prove that it was one of the most amazing experiences. And I will have to elaborate a little bit more on the beach party I mentioned at Costa Maya. Now, I've seen Above and Beyond many times over the many years because I'm a trans fan and I'm a fan of Above and Beyond. And I will have to say maybe it was the vibes of being on the beach in Costa Maya. It's day 3. I was pretty tired by this. I had spent the morning volunteering at the school in Costa Maya with the WET Foundation. Many factors probably contributed to this. But while enjoying some classics by Above and Beyond, I found myself in tears once again because of the music, because of the vibes, because of the experience. Having this opportunity to be on the Groove Cruise, I was not taking for granted. Like I said, it took 5 years to get to this point, and I know maybe some other people cannot afford it. This is why I started my own nonprofit We event organization to help people go on the event of their dreams, because I understand that not everybody has the opportunities that other people do. But I worked my ass off. I have a full-time job, paid my bills. I got on the cruise. However, the amazing vibes that I've described in terms of the people, the music, the opportunities of activities, everything that I've already mentioned, it just hit me hard while enjoying Above and Beyond. And this wasn't my first time in the last couple of years. I actually saw Above and Beyond on the beach in Huntington Beach, California, what they called Ajuna Beach. And again, I had that experience then, where I was with the Ajuna family, as they call it, because their label is Ajuna Beats, and found myself emotional. But this time, I was emotional even more so because it wasn't just the amazing, beautiful music of Above and Beyond. It was the whole experience that made me emotional. And I was just trying to soak it all in on that day. So, I want to reiterate that if you have the chance, and that if you are on the fence of attending one or both of a future Groove Cruise, please do. And again, I'm going to shout out what travel staff, the staff on Celebrity Cruise Line, all of the artists that were gracious with their time and energy on the Groove Cruise for an amazing experience that I will never forget. and that I deemed as one of the greatest opportunities that I've ever done. So I will end this episode by apologizing for any weird outside sounds that you may hear on this episode. I'm not in my normal studio, so to speak, recording this episode, but I do want to get this episode out there to recap my wonderful experience of Grove Cruise 2020, Miami to Costa Maya. And thank you for listening. And once again, please visit the official website of Trending Topics with BB podcast.com. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or requests, hit up the official email at ttwithbbpod@gmail.com. And hopefully we will be back with maybe another featured guest soon on this podcast, or I will be back with another binge episode. So again, thank you for listening, and have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, or whatever time you are listening to this episode, and I will talk to you soon. Brooke Brown, out.